Well, the good book says, and the book don't lie, that Jesus set his face towards Jerusalem. And he knew what was going to happen. The prophecy of Isaiah had said, like a lamb that he would be led to the slaughter, like a sheep before his shearers, he would be silent, not opening his mouth. We touched on it before, a short time before, about a week before the Passion, more or less. Jesus was down in southern Israel, near Jericho, near where the Dead Sea was. And Jericho, to the best of my understanding, was Sin City at that time. And it's the week before the Passion, and Jesus is coming out of Jerusalem. And why not go to Sin City, right? He came into the world to save sinners. He goes uphill all the way to Jerusalem, and he will go up on the cross, and he will come up from the grave, and he will go up to heaven. It's coming to an end. Now, there was a time where he disappeared out of Israel for a period because his time to be crucified had not yet arrived. And so we find Jesus then in pagan territory. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind, please. This again before the Passion, the week of the Passion. Jesus left that place and withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon, non-Jewish country. Then out came a Canaanite woman from that district and started shouting. She's desperate. Sir, Son of David. She knows who he is. Isn't that fascinating? She's an outsider. And when the Messiah would come, he'd be the Son of David. His own people didn't know him. Take pity on me. My daughter is tormented by a devil. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples went on and pleaded with him. Give her what she wants, they said, because she is shouting after us. So the Jews regarded these Syrophoenicians, these people from Tyre and Sidon, as dogs. And Jesus kind of acts out the culture. He ignores her. And she makes a nuisance of himself, like the widow woman who kept beating at the judge's door. And the apostles tell Jesus to help her. But I think what they're saying to Jesus, please get rid of her. She's embarrassing us. So this woman has got her daughter on her heart. My daughter is tormented by a devil. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples went and pleaded with him. Give her what she wants, they said, because she is shouting after us. He said in reply, I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But the woman had come up and was kneeling at his feet. One of the other evangelists said she was crouching at his feet, like a dog would crouch. Lord, she said, help me. He replied, it's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the house dogs. You see what he's doing to her? He's calling her a dog. She retorted, ah, yes, sir, but even house dogs can eat the scraps that fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered her, woman, you have great faith. You notice as well that Jesus used to refer to Mary as woman. So he elevates her in an extraordinary way. Woman, you have great faith. Let your wish be granted. And from that moment, her daughter was well again. Now, we'll just, for the sake of it, we'll take a little look at how Mark described it. And Mark would have been earlier than Matthew and would have gotten his information from St. Peter. So when we're listening to Mark, we're essentially hearing St. Peter telling the story. The daughter of the Syrophoenician woman healed. He left that place and set out for the territory of Tyre. Again, he's out of Israel because they're trying to kill him in Israel and the time is not right yet, so he goes out. Then he went into a house and did not want anyone to know he was there. But he could not pass unrecognized. A woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him straight away and came and fell at his feet. You can see how moms are driven by love. You know, that her daughter is sick, possessed by a devil. Now the woman was a pagan, by birth a Syrophoenician, and she begged him to cast the devil out of her daughter. And he said to her, the children should be fed first, because it is not right, children meaning the Jews, the children should be fed first, God's chosen people, because it is not right to take the children's food and throw it to the house dogs. He kind of softens it a bit. The Jewish people did not keep dogs in their homes. But he spoke up, but she spoke up. Ah, yes, sir, she replied, but the house dogs under the table can eat the children's scraps. And he said to her, for saying this, you may go home happy. The devil has gone out of your daughter. So she went off to her home and found the child lying on the bed and the devil gone. You have many of these great stories throughout the Bible of the interaction of Jesus with women. And for reasons unknown to myself, that we seem to pass over them because we're kind of focused in on Jesus and the 12 apostles. So we'll go back over another one along the same lines. This synagogue official, be like a bishop, you know, a big deal type of person. And this synagogue official would have no time for Jesus, but something's going on in his life. His daughter is dying. So he swallows all pride and goes and asks Jesus for help. Come down, please, Master. My daughter is dying. And Jesus, the pushover for girls and for women and for all of us, went with him. Now, there's a big crowd here because they want to see, you know, the next display of his power, raising a little girl to life if she in fact is dead. And in this big crowd, there's a woman with a hemorrhage of blood, and for 18 years. Mark says about the woman with the hemorrhage of blood that she'd spent all her money on doctors, and not alone was she not getting any better, but she was getting worse. Luke, who is a doctor, leaves that part out about spending all your money with doctors. So she said to herself, the woman with the hemorrhage, she said, if I can touch but the tassel of his cloak, maybe the part of his prayer shawl, or maybe the hem of his garment, I'm not exactly sure, I will be cured. Knowing, however, that according to the law, that if she touched him, she would become unclean. And anything she touched was unclean. This is a woman who couldn't get into the same bed with her husband anymore, couldn't pick up her children, you know, couldn't eat at the same table. But if I touch his garment, I will be cured. And instantly, when she did touch him, the source of the bleeding dried up. So how lovely is that? And then Jesus wheeled around in the crowd and he said, who touched me? I felt power go out from me. And the crowd backed up, you know, wasn't me, Jesus. And she's left exposed. And then Jesus went up to her and said, daughter, your faith has made you well. And opinion, I think he kissed her on the forehead, but I don't know. And then what about the little girl? When they got to the house where the little girl, the daughter of the synagogue official, the professional mourners or whoever they were, said, she's dead, she's dead, she's dead. Don't trouble the master any further. And then Jesus said, she's not dead. She's sleeping. Now, to God, death is simply sleeping. Remember he said about Lazarus, our friend Lazarus is sleeping, and he meant that he was dead, but he told the apostles he's sleeping. So they started to laugh at Jesus and say, you think we don't know when somebody is dead, you know? And then Jesus threw them all out of the house. And in my opinion, this is a funny part of the story. It wasn't even Jesus's house. Who does he think he is? He goes up to the room with Peter, James, and John and the parents. And the little girl is lying there in the bed. And he takes her by the hand and says to her in Hebrew, Talita kum, little girl arise. Pobrecita, the Spanish would say. Colleen, the Irish would say, little girl arise. And she came up from the bed and he gave her back to her parents and said, give her something to eat. The great sensitivity of Jesus. A lot of men might miss the fact that that women can look at a child and know that the child is sick just by looking at it, and knows that the child is well again when they're willing to eat. So the women in the life of Jesus, there was lots of them, and Luke tells you, again the Greek physician, Luke tells you that besides the 12 apostles, there was a group of women who followed Jesus throughout his ministry. And at the very end, there was 3 women and 1 man beneath the cross. Amen.